Hello, friends. My name is host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People, and somebody who is genuinely pretty familiar at this point with personality types. So tonight I thought I'd spend some time on my BFF type, INFJ, and discuss their actualization. So I wrote this little paper here, and I'm going to read it and go over it. Here's the quick reference table. INFJ conscious stack, NIFETISE. This is an unusual combination of functions. They're what I would consider conflicted functions because FE and TI in their most natural state go with NE and SI, like in the ENTP, in some order of those. These ones are conflicted, but to good effect in the INFJ for a lot of ways. MBTI shadow functions NEFITESI, and the MBTI role function, I make a note of this here because we're going to be talking about role function in this a lot, and it's different for Socionics and MBTI. So let's look here at this block. Socionics ego block, leading function, and Socionics NI, second function, creative function, FE, same as MBTI, 1, 2. After that, though, Socionics interpret things quite differently. So they put as the second block the superego block, which is going to have what MBTI considers the 8th and then the 7th functions of the INFJ. So the role function for Socionics is not TI, but rather SI. The place of least resistance function is TE. That's going to be important in this conversation as well. In the third block, Socionics deals with the suggestive function and mobilizing function. The suggestive function is Socionics' 5th function, and that's going to be SE. So obviously that's function 4 in MBTI. The mobilizing function, the Socionics' 6th function, is TI, inferred thinking. That's obviously the 3rd function in MBTI, and that concludes the super id block. The id block includes those that are going to be in the Socionics number 7 and number 8, but for MBTI it'll be 5 and 6. So the ignoring function then for the INFJ is the opposite of my ignoring function. It's NE. So I ignore NI, and they ignore NE. And we could talk more about that in a different video about what these ignoring functions do. But functionally, Socionics explains that INFJ is quite capable of coming up with lots of possibilities, and I certainly know that, having made media with an INFJ before, and making media with them now, actually, although not this media, but I've made plenty of GTM episodes with INFJs in the room, but in an active collaboration approach, Corey and I made a lot of media. I mean, I did most of the work, but he came over and we recorded podcasts. We had 80-some episodes of Box Monitor together. And so I know he's perfectly capable of coming up with lots of ideas, but he doesn't inherently value it, or rather he inherently values more the realization of existing truths. But let's go down to the nicknames. I always like nicknames for types. Idealist, mystic, confidant. I added this one, Mr. Miyagi. I think Mr. Miyagi was an INFJ in Karate Kid 1. Guru, protector, insightful counselor, sage. Those are some pretty complimentary nicknames, right? You guys are some sort of like magical levitating guy from India thing. Special snowflake, I had to put that one down there, right? Nandi, Margie, Eric, et al. Corey, those are nicknames for INFJs as well. And also gatherer of poos. a little known nickname, but I think maybe the most accurate of them all. Either that or insightful counselor. Insightful counselor, I think, is the most accurate one, to be honest. Alright, so I also put down here on this table the Enneagram tri-types that are likely to be INFJs. I see 459 as the likeliest. I put down here what they represent. So 4 is hypersensitivity, that's going to be basically NI. 5 is attachment, that's TI-NI combo thing. And then we've got calmness is another Enneagram type that's likely to represent a lot in INFJ. Potentially anxiety if they're damaged. These ones, helpfulness, image focus, these are sort of default FE standbys for INFJ. But may or may not actually be primary players in their Enneagram type. So in my opinion, I think most INFJs are probably going to be the contemplative. If they're damaged, the seeker. And if they're not, then they'll probably have a little bit more achiever in them. Maybe one of these 3s down here, 3 9s. Calm, image focused, and then helpful would be, peacemaker. So this is interesting. You might want to see if you're any of these types. If you're an INFJ, if you've not looked into tri-typing, it's interesting. You just take, a 9, a 1, or a 2, a 3 or 4. An 8, a 9, or a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4, and a 5, a 6, or a 7. That's your tri-type. One of each. You're probably 4 as your main type. Just like ESP is probably 7 as its main type. But again, 3 is possibility for both our types. Okay. So now let's go to the narrative part of this and see what the author, namely one Puesto Enrico. Oh no, senor, it was not me. It was host Eric who wrote this. Oh, was it? Did I write this? When did I write it? You wrote it tonight, host Eric. Oh, wow, I must have put a lot of time into it then. Yeah. You really care a lot. Well, I didn't expect it to be this big, actually. I do care, of course, but I didn't know I was gonna go where it went exactly. I'm glad it did. I like compiling information into useful packets. Anyway, introduction. The INFJ faces a challenge that is unique among the 16 types. ENTJs, it might be said, face a similar difficulty, but it plays out differently. INFJs are too well equipped for succeeding in life. I don't say this to be cheeky nor to laud the INFJ, but rather to point out a very serious challenge. For most types, life expresses itself along a few different vectors. Foremost, a type will either well or poorly be suited to academic performance in school. This generally has less to do with intelligence than with the capacity to execute the processes expected in a peaceable fashion. INFJ has no problem with this. They have both the intuition and the TI to excel academically, and the FE to be willing to do so. Next, a type will either well or poorly be suited to social matters. Those who express along this vector poorly may either withdraw and limit displays of emotions, or will overdo it and bother people. The INFJ, of course, has no such problem. In fact, they excel here even more than they do academically, and they use mastery in this area to facilitate every other aspect of their schooling experience, including academically. Having been a teacher, I can tell you that teachers generally are influenced by their feelings about students when grading, or at least when awarding grades at the end. Probably not during the course of the thing, but when awarding the final grade. Okay, so finally, a type will either have clear vision regarding realities and potentialities, or will have clear vision regarding one's course of action. The INFJ has clear vision regarding the former and a habit of finding themselves traveling along highly desirable courses of action, even if they feel as though it was not exactly they who initiated the movement. Initiated, not imitated. Initiated. Initiated? Is that how you spell initiated? Okay. Young adulthood. So this is going through childhood and adolescence. You've got a person who's sailing along probably for some portions of their childhood. I know that my friend Corey actually had kind of a difficult time in high school with certain aspects of things, but we went to a weird high school. Actually, he didn't even go to my high school for the whole time. But, and I didn't know him in high school, even though we went to the same school. Regardless, INFJ's young adulthood. INFJ enters young adulthood certain of their own capacity to see the truths of the world around them. It has been practiced, and the reliability of it confirmed throughout childhood and adolescence. Rarely does it lead them astray. And INFJ becomes accustomed to a reality in which others see less clearly than they, and in which others seek their wisdom out. This further confirms the power of their intuitions about human nature and systems. Not only do they offer advice, but tend to learn later that the other heeded it and that it worked. So not only do they give advice, they tend to give good advice. This state of affairs happens for a number of reasons. Foremost, the INFJ projects an attainment of calmness and certainty. They, unique among types, are able to position themselves as wise without being off-putting or seeming presumptuous. Additionally, one instinctively trusts the INFJ. After all, FE is the main tool function for the INFJ. Others perceive them as they want to be seen. And unlike FE dominant types, the INFJ projects both a depth and intelligence that suggests wisdom regarding your problem is within their purview. So you just have a feeling that whatever it is you're confused about, the INFJ gets it, and he can provide some insight. They cause us to believe this. It's not exactly intentional, but it's not unintentional either. All right. Adulthood and relationships. So, male INFJ is famously incapable of extracting himself from a bad relationship. Female INFJ may have slightly less difficulty here, but neither is good at effecting stark change that causes significant pain to others, no matter how necessary it may be to do so. This gets at the heart of the issue for INFJ. Like all FE users, definitely including me, there is an assumption among INFJs that if the FE stuff can just be perfected, then reality will be indistinguishable from the perceptions of others. It's true, that's what we think. We think, well, if I can get everybody else feeling exactly how I want them to feel about me, then that's the same thing as me feeling how I want to feel about me. But it's not. It's not the same at all, right? Those are different things. Of course, at the end of the day, even if everyone loves her, INFJ has to face the stark lonesomeness of the self. If life is about building connections, being whole is about accepting with love that our deepest connections won't save us one bit. And while INFJ is an introvert, she's no island unto herself, and their hardest steps are their loneliest ones. I don't know if that's true for all types. It's true for me. I think it's true for INFJ too. Coming to terms with what to do with oneself. What's the point of it all when I'm not on camera, right? Not writing anything? Not expressing anything? How does one feel about oneself? Function analysis, Socionics. The place of least resistance for the ILI is extroverted thinking. We'll start there because that's going to be determinant in a lot of things. Because 3 conscious functions come before TE in the INFJ, the nature of and utility of this function eludes the type's understanding. This manifests in a few different ways. Foremost, ILI does not process external information effectively. When researching something, ILI may be slow to incorporate or parse out approaches or information that conflicts with their intuition. With their instincts regarding people so effectively rendered into truths by their lead NI, the INFJ next uses TI to methodically produce a model that explains convincingly and intelligently the truths that they understand. How do they understand them? If not through a model, they understand them intuitively and with an understanding of how other people relate to this model through FE. That's their gut, right? And then they have to build the logic. With their instincts regarding people so effectively rendered into truths by their lead NI, the INFJ next uses TI to methodically produce a model that explains convincingly and intelligently the truths they understand. They seek sources of data outside of themselves very late in the process, if at all. Research tends to seek clarity regarding the logic of the mechanisms they already intuitively understand. So they're not going to be trying to determine what they believe in the way the ENTP is. Instead, they're going to be trying to determine why they believe it. And that makes for a big difference. It makes for a different approach to data. It makes for a different approach to... It's a pure TI approach. You know, there's no... It's a pure TI-NI approach. There's no parsing part to it. I mean, they do understand how to do parsing. They master it, the TI manifestation of it, pretty well. But from a motivational angle, that's not what's driving them at all. It's not actually accuracy or trying to find out what they believe, but rather trying to explain why what they believe is right. The thing is, we don't think of them as being backwards data processors like that, because, of course, the driving force for the INFJ is NI. So, I mean, while they might not really understand logically why they understand everything, right? Or why they think that and why that's the case or whatever, they do understand the right things, and the truths they see are pretty consistently right on the money. So that makes for a weird kind of TI, NI puncher. It's a puncher, right? Okay. So this is not to say the INFJ isn't engaging critically with abstraction. Indeed, no other feeling type consistently presents such logically sound understandings of things. This is because with TI in the third slot, INFJ values being perceived as highly intelligent above all other perceptions. So what they really would like to be seen as is highly intelligent, highly insightful, and rigorous in their thinking. That which is valued is practiced, and with NI guiding ILI towards the most salient arguments, the type can and often does attain intellectual powerhouse status. Don't underestimate INFJs. It's dangerous to do so, especially if you are in some sort of competitive enterprise with them, whether friendly or otherwise. Don't underestimate INFJs. They're dangerous if you push them too much. Very dangerous, potentially. They're nice, so you're probably not going to incur their wrath. But you don't want to. More arty or spiritual INFJs, however, will avoid too much direct discussion of complex abstract models because while they, too, wish to be perceived as smart, they know the best way to accomplish this is sometimes to say little. And I will produce at some point, and the party who says one or two brilliant things and nothing else makes much more of an impression than the guy who says six brilliant things and a bunch of other stuff. So this is how INFJs who are less directed through life experience towards more rigorous TI nevertheless present as having a rigorous TI. Some of them really do have it, and some of them less so. Obviously, the individuals differ. Ultimately, TI is hamstrung, though, in the type regardless, somewhat by the disastrously bad TE. The lack of weight placed on productivity means much weight placed on pleasures or thoughts or the spending of time with others in pleasant, shared, light activity. When they do apply themselves, an application of self towards structured utility is unavoidable for all types. They do good TI work, but it's always easier to fall back on their instincts about the systems around them. It's better than TI for them, better than the TI for them for most things most of the time. It's more reliable and it's faster. They don't need to deductively reach these conclusions. They already have it by NI, which one's correct, which one's valid. They've got NI instincts about TI stuff, so they sort of essentially know what's valid and not valid. They don't feel any particular need to parse it all out, is the thing. And they probably don't have any need to parse it all out. Occasionally, if one gets highly, highly advanced, they'll come make a play for dominance in that area. Like, what was his name? Tanor did. He came in and made a play for dominance. So, and he gave me more of a fight than anybody else has given me, by far. I think that's fair to say. But, not this line sin. Probably any other line sin, but not this one. Thus, INFJ does not like attending to practical details. For example, managing one's finances. They have no particular aptitude at such tasks, and such tasks offer them nothing of truth, perceptions, or accuracy, the three areas of cognition where INFJs live. Nor are they likely to appreciate the efforts of others to motivate them to attend to productive matters. Come on, Bob. You can get something done. Come on now. Indeed, one who pushes too hard runs the risk of being cut off, at least temporarily. ILI cannot stand for bossiness or arrogance or any intolerable attachment to pragmatics. They wish to hear none of the steps in your recipe for lukewarm boredom, which is how they tend to think of tasks they have to attend to. The problems of this are twofold. One, ILI has weak SI. That means there's neither respect for how things actually get done, TE, nor much instinct towards the objective self-analysis of active identity construction. Two, INFJ's excellent instincts regarding the emotional environments through which they move mean their attention usually stays there. Of course, to have such clarity regarding feelings, one must understand his own, but INFJ does not value them much because he prioritizes attending to them rarely. So what does this all mean for actualization? Well, optimal self. That's the best definition of actualized. It's vague, but it makes clear at least that more optimal states than the status quo are possible. The capacity for growth. It's what gives the ENTP his purpose for a long time. It allows him a rope to pull on when things are dark. And a positive to be taken from any setback. And it's this aspect of things that makes the INFJ faintly, ironically, tragic. ILI fails least and knows best and needs improvement least. Thus, it is hardest for the INFJ to optimize the self. Optimization requires the excising of that which is undesirable through a substitution of that which is more desirable. Like the ENTP, the INFJ seeks something unreal, a satisfaction that will elude the hunter stubbornly for years or decades, and once finally hounded down will prove a husk, or not even that. And as is the case with the ENTP, no solution for the INFJ beckons but on the other side of metaphysical terror. We are entirely alone, each of us, in his or her machination. Our failures echo, and our wins keep the void at bay. INFJ knows what ENTP knows, and what INTP knows deep down too. Our precious deep connections, our habits of file exchange. And the files ultimately have to mean something more than the act of passing them back and forth. If not, then kill the soul, deny the self, be drunk and eat well, cleave to those near. Use your attention like a weapon against the screaming of your soul. But don't leave it up and walking about. Make sure it stays dead. Because once we've dispelled our sturdier illusions, we must find a real answer, or kill our own soul. If we aren't thorough in killing it, it will keep knowing what we don't want it to know. Well, what's that, Eric? I don't know. I don't want to know it. I'm not in this part down here. This is the scary part down the road for me. Maybe you guys are in it. I don't know. I'm doing this part right now. Using my attention like a weapon against the screaming of my soul. This is kind of a writerly bit of text, huh? I can't help it. I just can't. I just want to craft it all. It maybe shouldn't be so crafted. Regardless, INFJ, you just watched this video. You know if it's too crafted or not. You know if this video was good or if it was not emotionally active enough, maybe. That's my initial thought. It's possibly a weakness of it. You already know. You gotta know that clearly about yourself, too. I don't think we'd ever find out. That's the thing, I don't think we ever find out, the rest of us, whether you actualize or not. That would mean seeing more than you can ever see of an INFJ. They keep their own counsel. Who knows what exactly it tells them, and who knows what distances they travel while I'm sitting over here scratching my head drawing conclusions about them. Don't underestimate an INFJ. Thanks for watching Talking with Famous People.